The Mediterranean Sea trembled with explosions. Fighter jets erupting into fragments. Nearly $1 billion vanished in a thick, black cloud reeking of burning fuel. The U.S. Navy found itself grappling with a nightmare, all courtesy of a single, small fishing vessel. This vessel was rusted, its nets haphazardly stowed, its civilian signaling system outdated. Yet, beneath its deceptive facade lay a dangerous weapon, capable of devastating a supercarrier like the USS Dwight D. Eisenhower. The U.S. Navy immediately sealed off the scene, cutting all communication channels. Only those present witnessed the chaotic aftermath. The truth lay within the debris, a strange device, an engine system that matched no known schematics. A sense of unease spread through the entire command team. Who could inflict such a blow on the ultimate symbol of American naval power, and then vanish without a trace? This is the extraordinary story of a seemingly harmless fishing boat that inflicted heavy losses on the U.S., and the admirable strength and courage of the American sailors who fought back. If you believe this story deserves to be widely shared, please hit like, share with your friends, and subscribe to the channel for the most authentic and dramatic military videos. Citadel of Steel, USS Dwight D. Eisenhower. There's no such thing as a peaceful morning on the deck of an aircraft carrier, but for the sailors living on the USS Dwight D. Eisenhower, or Ike, as she's known, peace was never their objective. They are trained to operate a colossal machine, a floating city shaped by war, always poised to disrupt, all to maintain the balance of global order. Launched in 1975 and officially commissioned 2 years later, the Eisenhower is more than just a ship. It's a monument, longer than 3 football fields, weighing over 100,000 tons, powered by 2 A4W nuclear reactors and 4 steam turbines. The Eisenhower can glide across the ocean at over 30 knots without refueling for 20 years, carrying a force of over 5,000 personnel. The ship also boasts a multi-layered sensor system, an AN/SPS-48E 3D air search radar, an AN/SPS-49 long-range radar, along with advanced combat systems and fire control, a digitized network ready to target anything that enters its kill radius. On deck, FA-18E-F Super Hornets are lined up like swords awaiting their sheath. Pilots from Carrier Air Wing 3, veterans of Iraq, Afghanistan, and Syria, can launch within 90 seconds of receiving orders. They carry not just missiles, guided bombs, and radar. They carry the immeasurable might of a superpower. This air fleet can generate 160 sorties per day, striking targets hundreds of nautical miles away within hours. Beneath its sea-dusty gray paint, the Eisenhower is equipped with the most sophisticated defenses: 2 RIM-116 Ram anti-aircraft missile launchers, 2 RIM-7 Sea Sparrow launchers, and 3 Phalanx CIWS systems, all programmed to react in less than 2 seconds from threat detection. These systems have successfully intercepted both cruise missiles and suicide UAVs in recent deployments in the Strait of Hormuz and the Red Sea. No one knows for sure what could penetrate that protective shell, but every commander on board understands even a small breach could become a loophole for $1 billion disaster. The Eisenhower's history is a relentless logbook of conflict: the Gulf, Bosnia, Iraq, Syria, Yemen. This ship led the first airstrikes in Operation Desert Storm, controlled the skies over Kabul, and most recently, blocked missile and drone attacks on merchant ships in the Red Sea, as the Houthi-Israel conflict pushed the Middle East to the brink. With over 200 consecutive days of operation in a single year, the ship has conducted thousands of real-world sorties, expending hundreds of millions of dollars in weaponry, and in return, saving dozens of lives. To maintain that power, the Eisenhower undergoes periodic overhauls. From 2001 to 2005, the reactors were replaced, radar systems upgraded, electronic warfare systems restructured, and combat capabilities enhanced. The most recent upgrades in 2022 included sensor improvements and tactical integration with new generation reconnaissance UAVs. The invisible armor of the Eisenhower today lies not in steel or radar-absorbing paint, but in data, in algorithms, and in the speed of decision-making. In the middle of the ocean, the Eisenhower stands as an isolated yet impregnable big steel empire. But all power has limits, and the stronger it is, the more willing adversaries are to challenge it. In waters where the sun is obscured by shimmering heat waves, an enemy approaches, not with warships or hypersonic missiles, but with something even 3D radar can barely detect camouflage. And the Eisenhower, in all its pride, was unaware that the first blow wouldn't come from the sky, but from beneath the waves. A small boat, a worn coat of paint, a sound fainter than a heartbeat, but inside was death. The disguised warship, a stealth weapon beneath the sea. A camouflage warship, 50 meters long, with mottled silver-gray steel plating, a faded nameplate, torn nets, and scattered foam boxes on deck, silently drifted out of sight of the USS Dwight D. Eisenhower in international waters near the operational area. On the carrier group's radar, it was just a harmless blip, a faint signal, small in size, bearing no resemblance to a combat vessel, a sardine among sharks. But beneath that rusted shell was a beast ready to deliver a fatal blow. This was a modern Q-ship, inheriting the spirit of deceptive warfare from World War I, which once fooled German U-boats. This 21st century version was equipped with deadly precision passive electronic radar, multi-band antennas, active jamming systems, and UAV control modules. Far from a fishing boat, it was a mobile electronic warfare fortress, ready to strike a crippling blow without firing a shot. In the cargo hold, among wooden crates nailed shut like frozen goods, lay hidden 2 torpedoes with guidance wings, inspired by the Kongsberg-Hugin Endurance, gliding smoothly beneath the waves, autonomously adjusting their course with brutal accuracy. Camouflaged deck hatches concealed 3 suicide drones. Fixed wing, with infrared sensors, the control room held no fishermen, only a team of electronic warfare engineers, their hands gliding over laptops and signal monitoring equipment, silent as ghosts. They had shadowed the Eisenhower for over 2 weeks, recording every pulse of the ship aircraft launch times, the operating frequency of the ANSPS-49 radar, the morning maintenance cycle. They discovered a 20-minute window when the radar switched it to high-altitude scanning and synchronized communication between the flight deck and the command center. This window was known as the Death Door. 1 strike would be enough. The ultimate weapon of the ship lay not in its torpedoes or drones, but in its stealth capabilities. Its AIS positioning system could be completely shut down. Its active jamming system transformed it into a phantom on US radar, at times a giant cargo ship, at others a small skiff. In a matter of seconds, it could materialize in 3 different locations, confusing enemy radar. This was New Age electronic warfare striking with illusions, winning through unpredictable transformations. The crucial question wasn't, where did it come from, but who was behind it? No national flag, no radio signals, no warnings. The operating team maintained absolute silence, simply collecting signals, waiting for the opportune moment, and preparing to strike. As the Eisenhower appeared on the horizon, its flight deck ablaze, steam catapults operating, the Q-ship locked onto its target via GPS signals. Positioning data, wind speed, and currents were synchronized with the automatic torpedo launch system, the UAVs, each weighing less than 12 kilos and carrying armor-piercing warheads, were ready in their disguised compartments. No one was certain of its affiliation, but it was clear it didn't come to deceive. It came to strike a real blow. The objective wasn't to sink the Eisenhower, an impossible feat. The objective was to wreak havoc, cripple the flight deck, halt sorties, destroy a few refueling fighter jets, and more importantly, scratch the impenetrable symbol of the US Navy. In the era of psychological warfare, a video of a scorched flight deck was worth more than $1 billion in ordnance. A strike from an unexpected adversary, an unknown warship, a sharp dagger in the heart of the ocean. The surprise ambush, a strike, at the heart of the Eisenhower. 17 minutes to 6 in the morning, Eastern Mediterranean. A thin mist drifted across the sea, reflecting the first rays of sun just peeking over the eastern horizon. On the deck of the USS Dwight D. Eisenhower, life began to stir. The technical crew checked the launch systems. The ground crew secured the FA-18EF Super Hornets with tie-down chains, and command ordered the catapults opened for the day's first sortie. A morning like hundreds before, disciplined, precise, in perfect sync. And then, in a heartbeat, order was torn asunder. A strange sound echoed from the starboard side, not a jet engine, not the waves, but a muffled, broken reverberation, as if the ocean itself was screaming in despair. From beneath the surface, 2 guided torpedoes, nearly identical in design to the Kongsberg-Hugin Endurance, sped toward the carrier at over 40 knots. Their target was not the hull, but the Eisenhower's heart, the flight deck. The impact occurred in a breathtaking moment. 2 deafening explosions ripped through the air. The deck shuddered like an empty steel drum. And then 300 square meters of deck near elevator number 3 erupted into thousands of fragments. A column of fire, nearly 20 meters high, rose, scorching the early morning sky. 3 Super Hornets preparing for takeoff were thrown, one tumbling off the catapult, the other 2 disintegrating beneath the shattered deck. Wing fragments, landing gear, and cockpits spun through the air in slow motion. Just seconds later, 3 fixed-wing suicide UAVs surged from behind the Q ship. They flew low over the waves, emitting laser and infrared signals, causing the AN/SPS-49 radar to fall into a state of white noise. Antennas lost contact. The Phalanx CIWS systems stood idle. Command immediately switched to EMCON. Absolute electronic silence. The ship reeled. Red warning lights flashed intermittently. Emergency alarms blared throughout the steel hull. Orders boomed from the loudspeaker system on every deck. Condition 1. This is not a drill. Repeat. This is not a drill. On A deck, sailors abandoned their breakfasts, rushing to damage control stations. Engineers in fireproof gear spread out like battle-ready ants. On the deck, thick black smoke billowed. 2 seriously wounded officers were rushed to the medical bay. 3 others suffered blast injuries. But the heaviest toll was not in personnel. Each destroyed FA-18EF Super Hornet was estimated to be worth $60 million. 3 aircraft, $180 million. The damaged flight deck would cost at least $30 million to repair. But more concerning, the loss of combat capability. The Eisenhower was forced to suspend sorties for at least 72 hours. At a rate of 8 sorties per hour, with an operating weapons, and logistics cost of approximately $1.25 million per sortie. The indirect loss from downtime, over $720 million in total, in less than 10 minutes. The U.S. Navy's $5 billion supercarrier took a nearly $1 billion hit. From the bridge, an officer uttered a remark that sounded like a soliloquy. "We just got hit by a fishing boat." No one laughed, because it was the truth. A small, anonymous, invisible vessel, flying no flag, sending no warning, silently penetrated the world's most complex, multi-layered defense system, simply by disguising itself as the weak. Stealth warships, hypersonic missiles, GPS satellites. None of that was needed. Just one well-timed, well-placed, decisive strike. No lives were lost, but honor was deeply wounded. The U.S. supercarrier, the flagship of the entire strike group, was hit in full view of the world. The flight deck was torn. Radar was confused. Communications were disrupted. Questions began to arise how many other Q ships were drifting out there. The USS Dwight D. Eisenhower had never turned back from any battle, and this time was no different. $1 billion in damage was not enough to defeat it, but it was enough to ignite a furious rage. Below deck, every RIM 116 ram began loading. On the aft deck, 2 EA-18G Growlers started their engines. In the central hold, the AGM-158C LRASM guidance system lit up. The U.S. Navy had never lost the art of the counterattack. The Angry Monster's counterattack. On the Eisenhower's deck, before the smoke had even cleared, orders went out. Battle Condition 1 was activated. All combat systems switched into target engagement mode. Sensors were pushed to maximum alert. Radars swept in 360-degree rotations, searching for any unusual signals. Steel doors slammed shut. Every gun crew stood ready to fire. Every battle station crew pushed their intensity to the maximum. 2 EA-18G Growlers roared off the deck in a thick white haze. Pilots activated their ALQ-218 passive sensors, beginning to trace the source of the electronic jamming emanating from the southeast, precisely where the disguised fishing vessel was broadcasting chaos across the naval frequency band. It took just a second for the targeting system to lock onto the position, and at that exact moment, the FA-18F Super Hornet was ready. A single command was issued. An AGM-88 HARM missile left the fighter jet's left wing, streaking directly toward the target, homing in on its emissions. In less than 15 seconds, the first explosion illuminated the horizon. The enemy ship's jamming array was torn apart. Electronic silence immediately spread, a clear sign that the first strike was successful. Immediately, the Eisenhower launched its next blow. Two AGM-158C LRASMs, the world's smartest long-range anti-ship missiles, were fired in parallel from a distance of over 50 kilometers, guided by a combination of GPS, infrared, and active radar. The two munitions skimmed low over the sea, locking onto the target in an instant. The simultaneous strike plunged deep into the Q-ship's midsection and engine room. A grinding explosion ripped through the ocean. The ship's hull listed. Fire and smoke rose from both ends. The super-strong structure split in two. The Eisenhower's air defense system immediately formed a tight network of weapons around it. Ram Block 2s were activated. Sea Sparrows maintained combat readiness, preventing any UAVs or reinforcement vessels from approaching. Within 6 minutes, the Eisenhower had completed its counterattack sequence, from target detection, missile launch, to the complete neutralization of the threat, a combat sequence with absolute precision, enough to be written into modern electronic warfare textbooks. The total cost for the entire counterattack was approximately $6.7 million, two LRASMs valued at roughly $6 million, one HARM missile at about $300,000 along with a few hours of flight time, calculated at $150,000. In return, the entire Q-ship was completely neutralized. The entire threat was swept clean from the sea. On deck, young sailors wiped sweat, rechecked their weapons, and prepared for the next patrol. No one laughed. No one cheered. They were accustomed to battles where victory meant survival. One of the technical officers spoke over the internal comms. Target vessel has lost signal. Structure completely disintegrated. Wreckage recovery order initiated. Beneath the steel that was still hot from battle, the Eisenhower had reacted like a war creature, born to survive. Fast, precise, decisive. No warning, no delay, no negotiation. Only the next mission remained to uncover who was behind this nightmare. Tracing the enemy. A chilling truth revealed. The spy ship had not fully sunk when the Eisenhower's rapid response team arrived. In the murky water, stained with fuel oil and burn marks, they salvaged broken hull fragments, charred control panels, and a partially intact engine section. On the carrier's deck, technicians immediately transformed the repair area into a floating forensics lab. Any remaining trace, from a screw to a motherboard, became evidence. 3 composite hull fragments were identified as having radar reflective properties, similar to designs used in Type 792 reconnaissance vessels or PACAP-3 stealth ships. An engine section, after preliminary inspection, showed a high-pressure combustion turbine structure with parameters similar to 2 prominent engine types, the Russian-made M504 diesel radial and the Banyan 6 used in fast attack craft in the Gulf region. However, the engine serial number had been defaced, and all QR codes identifying components had been mechanically scraped off. A preliminary report was sent to Naval Operations Command. In the analysis section, a note was highlighted. Some mechanical components may be linked to Russian or Iranian industrial systems, but direct origin cannot be determined, and it is insufficient to assign national responsibility. Below the note was a concise additional line. Hypothesis technology copied or acquired through an intermediary channel. The story began to grow complicated. A low-frequency signal reception device was found in the radio compartment, hand-soldered, encased in a crudely welded steel box. This device matched a sample previously seized by NATO intelligence in the Black Sea in 2022, yet it also closely resembled commercial dual-use devices advertised on the dark net. It could have been used by any party, from state forces, paramilitary groups, to outsourced organizations operating under sealed contracts. A recovered suicide drone also left no clear clues. The lithium battery had no production lot number. The navigation chip was of Chinese origin, but the firmware had been altered. In the extracted data, the technical team discovered a code cluster containing the designation VZK84R, an identifier not belonging to any military system known to the US. Even the Navy's independent AI analysis could not decipher its origin. An expert remarked during a classified meeting, "It's as if someone deliberately embedded a layer of data noise to prevent us from tracing the main line." The Eisenhower temporarily withdrew from the area after completing the collection and sealing of evidence. The entire Carrier Strike Group 2 shifted to a high state of readiness, maintaining continuous encrypted internal communications, in case this was just an opening salvo. at a strategic meeting held 3 days later at the naval base in Rota, Spain. An intelligence officer placed 2 thick folders on the table. One was titled Motor Supply Chains Caspian-Volga Black Sea Axis. The other labeled Electronics Trace Hormuz-Chabahar Link. Both were marked Continued Surveillance. There was no direct evidence, no official claim, no one took responsibility. The aircraft carrier Eisenhower continued its journey. New replacement aircraft were transported by C-2 Greyhounds. The flight deck was temporarily repaired. No one on board verbally mentioned the incident again, but every glance implied this silence was heavier than any statement. The truth lay somewhere between the steel fragments and the data gaps. And perhaps the most dangerous thing wasn't what had just happened, but the feeling it could happen again, at any time, from any direction. Please note, all content presented above is simulated, hypothetical, strategic, and analytical in nature. It is not intended to incite violence, promote political bias, or provoke military action or war. The content solely represents our individual hypothetical simulations and potential analyses. Any misinterpretations will not be accepted. We are not responsible for any understanding or application derived from this video's content. Viewers should exercise their own judgment, verify information, and engage with the content critically. Thank you so much for staying with us until the very end. If you're passionate about military topics, enjoy analysis, and love exploring hypothetical scenarios, then stick around with our channel. If you found this video interesting, please like and subscribe so you don't miss any of our daily updates. Now, you can check out some of our latest and most popular videos currently on screen. Goodbye, and we'll see you in the next video.